They fired me for missing one day after 3 years of loyalty. The CEO's daughter looked me in the eye and said I wasn't emotionally reliable. Before you hear my story, tap subscribe and drop a comment if you've ever been underestimated, discarded like you didn't matter, or told you'd never make it without them. The panic attack started small. At first, I thought it was just nerves, the kind that came from too much caffeine and not enough breakfast. But as I stood in the bathroom staring into the mirror, I realized something was wrong. My reflection looked pale, almost translucent. My chest rose and fell in frantic gasps, and no matter how deeply I tried to inhale, I couldn't get enough air. My heart thundered against my ribs, like it was trying to break free. Not now, I whispered to myself, gripping the edge of the sink so hard my knuckles turned white. But panic doesn't care about timing. It doesn't care that you're supposed to be at work in 20 minutes, that people are counting on you to be the cheerful face behind the front desk. I sank to the cold tile floor, pulling my knees to my chest. The world tilted and shrank, sounds muffled like I was underwater. I don't know how long I stayed there, rocking gently back and forth, whispering, "You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be fine." Eventually, my trembling hands found my phone. I called the HR line, left a message, and hung up before I could second-guess myself. One day off. That's all I needed. One day to get myself together. The next morning, I dragged myself into the office with heavy legs and an even heavier heart. My makeup couldn't hide the bags under my eyes, and the smile I plastered on felt like it would crack at any second. But I was there, reliable as always, or so I thought. By noon my desk phone blinked red with a message. "Claire, please report to Mr. Harrison's office." My stomach dropped. I smoothed my blouse, tucked my hair behind my ear, and tried to convince myself it was nothing serious. Maybe they needed me to cover an extra shift. Maybe Mr. Harrison had noticed my hard work. When I stepped into his office, hope evaporated. Celeste Harrison sat in the chair beside her father's desk, legs crossed, tapping one perfectly manicured nail against her tablet. She looked up at me like a queen addressing a servant. "Close the door," she said. The command sliced through the air. I obeyed, clutching my notepad against my chest like a lifeline. Mr. Harrison barely looked up from his paperwork. His once kind eyes had grown distant over the years, lost in numbers and quarterly reports. Celeste had him wrapped around her finger, and everyone knew it. Celeste tilted her head, smiling the way one might smile at a child who didn't understand the rules of the game. "Claire," she began, "we've decided to let you go." Her words hung in the air like a death sentence. I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "You've proven yourself emotionally unreliable," she said smoothly. "We need someone we can depend on. Someone who doesn't crack under pressure." Yesterday was concerning. Concerning. The word burned in my ears. "I've been here for 3 years," I stammered. "I've never missed a day. I stay late when you need me." Mr. Harrison shifted papers on his desk, not meeting my eyes. "It's for the best." Celeste's smile sharpened. "You can collect your things today. HR will process your paperwork." My mouth went dry. "Please. I just had a bad day. It won't happen again." Her hand lifted in a gesture of dismissal. "We don't make decisions lightly, Claire. You'll land on your feet. Good luck. Good luck." The 2 words that meant they were done with me. I wanted to scream, to demand they explain how one bad day erased 3 years of loyalty. But my voice betrayed me. Nothing came out but a shaky nod. When I walked back to my desk, the office felt colder. People peeked over their monitors, eyes darting away when I caught them. Pity, curiosity, relief that it wasn't them. I packed slowly, each item a tiny wound. The pen set I bought with my first paycheck. The mug that said "World's Okayest Receptionist." The photo of my mom and me at the beach, her arm around me, the waves crashing behind us. My hands trembled so badly that the frame slipped, shattering on the desk. I stared at the shards, blinking back tears, then scooped them into the trash. As I carried the box toward the elevator, I heard Celeste's laugh from her office. Bright, melodic, cruel. The sound followed me down 12 floors and out onto the street. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the ceiling. My bills lay scattered across the kitchen table, a silent accusation. My phone buzzed with a text from my landlord reminding me rent was due in 2 weeks. I pulled the blanket over my head and cried until I couldn't anymore. Days passed. I applied for jobs, sent out resumes. Most went unanswered. The few interviews I got ended with polite smiles and empty promises. At night, I replayed Celeste's words. Emotionally unreliable. Like I was broken, defective, unworthy. It was the 7th night when something shifted. I sat at the table, staring at another rejection email. My laptop screen glowed, casting harsh light across the bills I couldn't pay. My chest tightened, but this time it wasn't panic. It was anger. My eyes landed on the notepad I'd carried home. Flipping through it, I found scribbles I'd made at work, notes about inefficiencies, ways to save time, client frustrations I'd overheard. No one had cared when I pointed these things out. But what if I used them now? Not for Harrison and company, for myself. The idea lit a spark inside me. I spent the night sketching out a system. A tool to help businesses manage clients better, cut wasted hours, run leaner. It wasn't much yet, just diagrams and lists, but it was mine. For the first time in weeks, I felt alive. They thought I was weak, disposable. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I swore to myself then, I would build something stronger than their judgment. Something they couldn't ignore. And when the time came, Celeste Harrison would look me in the eyes again. Only this time, I wouldn't be the one begging for mercy. The first 3 months of freelancing nearly broke me. I had no safety net, no trust fund, no rich parents to bail me out like Celeste. Just a laptop, a shaky internet connection, and a stubborn refusal to give up. The morning started with coffee so strong it made my hands tremble, followed by endless hours trawling through freelance job boards. Data entry, customer support, virtual assistants. Anything that would keep the lights on. Most days ended with rejection emails. We regret to inform you. We've decided to move forward with another candidate. Sometimes, there was no response at all. But every no added fuel to the fire inside me. At night, I worked on my system. I called it Lean Flow, a simple scheduling and workflow platform that small businesses could actually afford. I didn't have the resources for fancy software, but I could build prototypes, spreadsheets, and plugins that made people's lives easier. My first client was a tiny local bakery. They couldn't keep track of orders during wedding season, and brides were furious when cakes came out wrong. I remember sitting in their flour-dusted back room, sketching out a calendar system that color-coded every order. It wasn't glamorous, but when the owner cried with relief and handed me an envelope with $300 in cash, I felt rich. That night, I ate real takeout for the first time in months, orange chicken and fried rice, and cried into the carton, not from sadness, but because I finally felt useful again. Still, the grind was brutal. For every client that paid, 2 ghosted me. Some demanded endless revisions for pennies. My landlord threatened eviction twice. My car broke down, and I rode the bus with my laptop wedged under my arm, praying it wouldn't get stolen. But I kept going. Every insult Celeste had hurled at me replayed in my head like a war drum. Emotionally unreliable. Not dependable. Mediocre. I was determined to prove her wrong. Not by words, but by results. 6 months in, Lean Flow caught the attention of a small logistics company. They needed help streamlining their shipping schedules, which were a mess of sticky notes and Excel sheets. I spent nights buried in spreadsheets, coding formulas until my eyes burned. When I presented the system to them, the manager leaned back in his chair, whistling low. "This'll save us 10 grand a quarter," he said. They signed a contract the next day. For the first time, I had recurring income. I bought a second-hand office chair, one that didn't squeak every time I shifted. I upgraded my internet. I even allowed myself to buy a bouquet of daisies for the kitchen table, just to feel like life was more than bills and survival. But with growth came doubt. I'd stare at my reflection some nights, wondering if I was fooling myself, wondering if Celeste had been right, if I really wasn't dependable. Panic still lurked at the edges of my days, waiting to strike when deadlines piled up. Then I'd remember the bakery owner's hug, the logistics manager's grin, the way clients looked at me with gratitude instead of pity. I wasn't unreliable. I was building something real. The turning point came at the 1-year mark. I got an email from a consulting firm that managed vendors for larger corporations. One of their clients, a mid-sized manufacturing company, was hemorrhaging money because their scheduling system was a disaster. I pitched lean flow. The boardroom meeting was terrifying. I wore my best thrift store blazer, the sleeves a little too short, and clutched my laptop like it was my shield. Halfway through my presentation, one of the executives frowned. "You're young and proven. Why should we trust you?" I took a slow breath. My palms were sweating, but my voice came out steady. "Because I know what it's like to be underestimated," I said. "And I've built a system designed for people like you, companies who are tired of excuses and desperate for results. Give me 90 days. If I don't deliver, you don't pay a cent." The room fell silent. Finally, the CEO nodded. 90 days. Impress us. And I did. By the end of the trial, Lean Flow had saved them 30% in wasted labor. They signed a year-long contract worth more than I'd ever dreamed possible. I remember sitting in my car afterward, hands gripping the steering wheel, laughing and crying all at once. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was winning. With that contract, word spread. More clients came. I hired 2 part-time assistants. My tiny apartment turned into a buzzing little office, papers stacked high, whiteboards scribbled with deadlines. For the first time, I felt unstoppable. Then, 18 months after the day Celeste had humiliated me, I got an email that made my breath catch. One of my consulting firm contacts wanted me to take over a massive account. Harrison and Company's biggest competitor, Langston Industries, was looking for a new vendor. The irony was delicious. If I landed this contract, Harrison and Company would lose millions in annual revenue. It would cripple their operations. But when I saw the client name in bold letters, fear punched me in the gut. This was real. This was the kind of move you didn't come back from. If I failed, I'd lose everything I'd built. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my apartment, heart pounding, mind racing. Part of me whispered to play it safe. Stay small. Stay comfortable. But another voice, the one Celeste had awakened the day she called me emotionally unreliable, was louder. They tried to break you. Now it's your turn. I closed my laptop at 3 a.m. with a decision made. I was going after Langston Industries. And if I won, Celeste Harrison wouldn't just remember me, she'd never escape the shadow of what I'd become. The Langston Industries boardroom was nothing like the cramped bakery backroom where I'd landed my first client. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline, the city sprawling out in all directions. The table gleamed, polished so well I could see my reflection in its surface. I sat at the head, laptop open, heart pounding. This was it, the moment 18 months of grinding had been leading to. Across from me sat the Langston executives, a half circle of sharp suits and sharper eyes. At the center was their COO, a woman named Evelyn Price. Her reputation preceded her, ruthless, precise, allergic to excuses. She steepled her fingers. "We've heard good things about Lean Flow. Convince us." I swallowed hard, clicked to the first slide and began. I didn't give them buzzwords. I gave them proof, real numbers, case studies, testimonials. I showed them how Lean Flow had saved clients hundreds of hours and millions in costs. I didn't flinch when they grilled me with questions. I'd built the system in the fire of desperation. I knew every inch of it. When I finished, Evelyn leaned back, studying me for a long moment. Then she smiled, just a little. "You're hired." The room erupted in handshakes and congratulations. But all I felt was a quiet, burning triumph. Because I knew exactly what this meant. Langston Industries was Harrison and Company's lifeblood competitor. This contract wasn't just big. It was a dagger aimed straight at Celeste Harrison's empire. The fallout was swift. Within months, Langston's efficiency skyrocketed. Their clients sang their praises. Their profits soared. Meanwhile, whispers spread about Harrison and Company. Clients were frustrated. Projects ran late. Costs ballooned. And Celeste, she was furious. I heard about it through the grapevine. Former coworkers messaged me on LinkedIn. "She's losing it," one wrote. "She's calling emergency meetings twice a day, screaming in the halls. Half the staff wants to quit." I pictured her, pacing in her designer heels, that perfect smile cracking under the weight of failure. And for the first time, I didn't feel small when I thought of her. I felt powerful. It all came to a head 6 months later when I received an unexpected invitation. Harrison and Company was hosting a strategic partnership summit, and Lean Flo was on the guest list. I knew instantly who was behind it. Celeste. She wanted to size me up. Maybe intimidate me. Maybe steal me. I almost declined. But then I thought about the way she'd looked at me in her father's office, the smug tilt of her chin, the casual dismissal. No. She needed to see me. So I went. The lobby of the Harrison building hadn't changed. The same polished marble floors, the same faint smell of citrus cleaner. But this time, I didn't walk in with a receptionist badge. I walked in as the CEO of Lean Flow Solutions. The receptionist, new, younger, smiled nervously as she handed me a guest pass. Ms. Harrison will meet you shortly. When Celeste appeared, she looked like a woman waging war with herself. Her hair was perfect, her heels sharp, her smile intact, but her eyes were wild. Claire, she said, voice dripping honey. It's been too long. I matched her smile. It has. We sat in her glass-walled office, the city sprawling behind her. She gestured gracefully, as if this were a friendly chat. You've done well for yourself, she said. Lean Flow, it's impressive. But I imagine managing growth must be stressful. There it was, the dig. The subtle reminder of the panic attack that had cost me my job. I didn't flinch. Stressful, yes. Unmanageable, no. Reliability is something I take seriously. Her smile faltered. Just a flicker, but I caught it. She cleared her throat. We're considering partnering with new vendors. Harrison and Company is expanding, and we'd like to discuss collaboration. Translation, she wanted me to save her. I leaned back, studying her the way she used to study me. Interesting, because I heard Langston just renewed their contract with us. 3 years, isn't it? Her hand tightened on her pen. Business is competitive. Things change. I let the silence stretch, enjoying the way her composure cracked. Finally, I leaned forward. You know, Celeste, I almost didn't come today. But then I remembered something you said to me once. That I wasn't dependable. That I wasn't good enough for a professional environment. Her face froze. I smiled. Turns out you were wrong. Her mask slipped completely then. The confident smirk, the rehearsed calm, it all crumbled, leaving behind a woman who looked cornered. I stood, smoothing my blazer. Good luck with your expansion. You'll need it. And I walked out, leaving her in silence. The news broke 3 weeks later. Harrison and Company had lost another major client. Layoffs followed. Celeste's name was whispered in scandal, her leadership questioned, her future uncertain. I read the headlines with quiet satisfaction. Not gloating, not shouting from rooftops. Just a deep, steady calm. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. They had fired me for being emotionally unreliable. But in the end, I had proven more reliable than Celeste Harrison could ever dream of being. And the best part, I didn't have to destroy her. She destroyed herself. I just handed her the mirror. Revenge doesn't come with a roar. It arrives quietly, precise, when the world least expects it. If you've ever bided your time in silence, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Your support keeps these stories alive. Until next time, stay patient, stay unbreakable.